I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Like that, you see?
No, I see. I get the idea.
Who is this guy?
Bruce Lee.
So what are you, like this gung fu philosopher?
Well, Kung Fu, the best example would be a glass of water. Why? Because water is the softest substance in the world, but yet it can penetrate the hardest rock or anything, granite, you name it. Water also is insubstantial. By that I mean you cannot grasp hold of it. You cannot punch it and hurt it. So every Kung Fu man is trying to do that, to be soft like water and flexible and adapt itself to the opponent.
Interesting. So what comes to mind when you think of Bruce Lee? The martial artist, famous for his movies? However, his legend goes deeper than the films you see. Behind the flashy style was a polymath rooted in philosophy. It's wisdom expressed in his gung fu technique. So when he says, "Be water, my friend," what does that mean? Let's explore this in the book, Bruce Lee, Artist of Life. This book is a collection of never-before-published private letters and notes, providing insight deeper into his thoughts. It begins as a student of knowledge from his early days of learning Kung Fu under renowned master Yip Man. Bruce Lee developed a keen self-awareness, inspired by the flow of water. He mentions Wu Wei as a form of non-action being applied to Kung Fu to reach a state of mind with your opponent. This means blocking the ego of your thoughts to let the mind flow. Any form of ego can hinder your ability to remain in balance with the present. He illustrates this concept through a passage from Tao Te Ching. Nothing is weaker than water, but when it attacks something hard or resistant, then nothing withstands it, and nothing will alter its way. Bruce adds to this when he says, "Water is so fine that it is impossible to grasp a handful of it. Strike it, yet it does not suffer hurt. Stab it, and it is not wounded. Sever it, yet it is not divided. It has no shape of its own, but molds itself to the receptacle that it contains it. When heated to the state of steam, it is invisible, but has enough power to split the earth itself. When frozen, it crystallizes into a mighty rock. First, it is turbulent like Niagara Falls, and then calm like a still pond, fearful like a torrent, and refreshing like a spring on a hot summer's day." What makes this so amazing is how he uses the versatility of water in its form to describe how we as humans have the same ability to adapt our mental form. Applying this way of thought can help us overcome any barrier that comes in life, be it in things like fights, arguments, challenges, or even unexpected situations that throw your mind off kilter. Just like water, we can adjust ourselves to flow onward in our path, unharmed. In itself, gung fu is a philosophical art based in the Tao and the Zen that cultivates the mind to provide self-protection. There's no distinction between the opponent and self because you fit to move in harmony like water. When he expands, you contract. When you contract, he expands. But to understand where this famous phrase of be water came from, he takes us back to his days of when he was learning under Master Yip Man. It was here where Bruce recalls struggling to maintain harmony within his mind while in combat with his opponent. In speaking of this imbalance, he writes, "When my acute self-consciousness grew to what the psychologists refer to as the double bind type, my instructor would again approach me and say, 'Luang, preserve yourself by following the natural bends of things and don't interfere. Remember never to assert yourself against nature. Never be in frontal opposition to any problems, but control it by swinging with it. Don't practice this week. Go home and think about it.' The following week, I stayed home. After spending many hours meditating and practicing, I gave up and went sailing alone in a junk. On the sea, I thought of all my past training and got mad at myself and punched the water. Right then, at that moment, a thought suddenly struck me. Was not this water the very essence of gung fu? Hadn't this water just now illustrated to me the principle of gung fu? I struck it, but it did not suffer hurt. Again I struck it with all my might, yet it was not wounded. I then tried to grasp a handful of it, but this proved impossible. This water, the softest substance in the world, which could be contained in the smallest jar, only seemed weak. In reality, it could penetrate the hardest substance in the world. And that was it. I wanted to be like the nature of water. And suddenly a bird flew by and cast its reflection on the water. Right then, as I was absorbing myself with the lesson of the water, another mystic sense of hidden meaning revealed itself to me. Should not the thoughts and emotions I had when in front of an opponent pass like the reflection of the bird flying over the water? This was exactly what Professor Yip meant by being detached. Not being without emotion or feeling, but being one in whom feeling was not sticky or blocked. Therefore, in order to control myself, I must first accept myself by going with and not against my nature. I mean, what an amazing mind. This may only touch the tip of the iceberg, but my gosh, this guy is so deeply rooted in philosophy, it's unbelievable. And if you're looking for a deep read or a deeper read into this, then Bruce Lee, Artist of Life is a wonderful book which will provide some major insight into his vast mind. And in it, you'll find a lot more stuff. And I've only touched the tip of this book. I mean, there's so much more to this book. It's unbelievable how deep his mind goes. He draws from deep philosophers such as Socrates, Plato, Descartes. And here's a little fun thing I didn't even know. He wrote poetry, and further into the book at the end, you'll see some of his writings. And he's a really good poet, so highly recommend just to get a deeper look or glimpse into his mind. A wonderful guy. There's more to him than just the fighting that you see. And so based off of all these things, read this book. Definitely worth it. Bruce Lee, Artist of Life. He's a poet, an artist, a philosopher. The list goes on. And if you want to see a good movie, Enter the Dragon is a very good classic too.